We know for sure that Wenda is the main killer in Incredibox Sprunki, but what's even more surprising is that she's not the only one who's killed Sprunki. This fact was officially confirmed by the developer. So, I started wondering who the second killer might be. Could there even be more than two? At first glance, all the Sprunki look pretty cute, but some of them don't quite fit that description, and their real motives could seriously freak everyone out. In the second phase, we see many who survive those brutal events, but are they all really allies, or is one of them that second killer? Let's dive into this little investigation, and to start off, we need to figure out which Sprunki didn't make it and who got lucky enough to survive. First up are those who took the worst injuries and have almost no chance of making it through, so we can rule them out as possible killers. The first Sprunki like this is Orin. Despite being totally charming in Phase 1, in Phase 2, he's seen in a destroyed state, with only his heart left, still trying to beat. It's kind of weird, especially since the other characters make sounds or beats, which seems normal. Next up is Kluker, who has half of his head smashed in, causing his symbol to hang much lower than it's supposed to. And then there's Ratty, the unluckiest of them all. Not only did he lose half his face with the skin and muscles peeled completely off, but he also had his lower limbs torn off and was hanged. It's straight up nightmare fuel. And just a fun fact, Ratty's actually the only character you can drag both down and up. Sky endured unimaginable pain before his tragic end. He was pierced multiple times by something resembling metal rods. Garnold didn't survive the carnage either. His head was destroyed from the inside, as evidenced by the bruising around his eye and neck. Most likely, the fact that Garnold, along with Mr. Fun and Funbot, was created by Kluker doesn't make him 100% robotic. I suspect he's a cyborg. But even that didn't save him from destruction, and I strongly believe Wenda was involved, despite having only one confirmed kill, Tunner. Tunner is an intriguing character who had the right to carry a weapon. Ironically, it was his own weapon that Wenda used to kill him. With that, our list of deceased Sprunki comes to an end, and now we move on to the survivors. Among them, our next killer, or killers, must be hiding. Aside from the unhinged Wenda, who seems the most gleeful about the chaos, as seen in her sinister grin, there are a few other suspicious Sprunki. Let's break it down step by step. As mentioned earlier, Wenda killed Tunner using his pistol, but it's also been officially confirmed that she used a knife as part of her plans. While this detail might not reveal much just yet, it remains an important clue worth keeping in mind. Among the survivors is Gray, who managed to escape but still bears the memory of the horrors that unfolded during the transition from the first to the second phase. His face reflects the sheer terror of what happened in the Sprunki world, effectively clearing him of most suspicion. As for Brood, there are a few interesting facts to note, the most peculiar being his brain. Brood has an exceptionally small brain, which allowed him to survive despite having half of his head bitten off. On the flip side, this also makes it clear that Brood physically cannot be the killer. His intelligence simply wouldn't allow it. Durple hasn't changed much since the first phase, apart from, like Gray, carrying the lifelong memory of the horrifying events that took the lives of their friends. Durple and Gray are genuinely terrified, and since this fact cleared Gray of suspicion, it logically eliminates Durple from the list of potential killers as well. We know for sure that Pinky and Orin were in a relationship. While Orin ended up among the fallen Sprunki, Pinky managed to survive. This fact, along with the trauma Pinky endured, confirms she couldn't possibly be the killer either. Jevin, on the other hand, stands out for his suspicious calmness in both the first and second phases. He has barely changed, which might lead us to suspect him of being Wenda's accomplice. However, there's one major catch. The developer has officially confirmed that Jevin is on the good side. This solid statement dispels any debates or suspicions about him, leaving us with no choice but to accept that Jevin, under no circumstances, could be the second killer. OXX, or simply Lime, also ended up as one of the survivors, though neither his survival nor death is officially confirmed. However, his odd behavior was noticeable even back in the first phase. For the sake of simplicity, let's agree to call this character Lime from now on, as it's much easier to process than OXX. A crucial detail about Lime is that he either escaped or was released from a psychiatric hospital, and this piece of information will be vital later on, as Lime currently stands as our prime suspect. Among the other survivors, there are some truly peculiar characters. Take Veneria, for example, who, according to the canon, has a plant growing inside her. This condition ultimately caused her demise, not at the hands of another like Ratty or Sky, but through her own internal struggle. Another troubling figure is Simon, who was responsible for Brood's injuries. Both Simon and Veneria transform into monstrous forms in their horror versions. Judging by Simon and Brood's interactions, it seems that in their monster forms, these characters become uncontrollable and bloodthirsty. However, it's essential to note that this monstrous state is actually a defensive mechanism. They weren't trying to harm anyone intentionally, they were simply acting out of a primal instinct to protect themselves. As for some of the other characters, I don't even see a point in mentioning them. They simply cannot be the killer by any reasonable measure. Among all these characters, the mysterious Black Sprunki stands out the most. We hardly know a thing about him, not even his real name. Black Sprunki doesn't show up in the first phase, and if you try to use him, you're immediately taken to phase 2, with all his mystery. There's a solid chance he's one of the killers. The creator dropped a huge hint about him. You put on his hat, and bam, you're in a hellscape where nearly every Sprunki suffered. Some didn't make it through the day, some turned into monsters, and a few barely hung on. It's entirely possible that Black was working with Wenda, where she was the brutal one, and he played the more careful, less harmful role. But then there's the wild card, Lime, who most likely escaped from a psychiatric hospital rather than just being released. Just look into those crazy eyes of his. Even in phase 1, Lime came across as the oddest of the bunch. His eyes say it all. Something's definitely off. Sure, Jevin seems shady too, but the creator himself confirmed Jevin's on the good side. Lime, though, nobody's stepping up to vouch for him. Now you might say, but wasn't Lime himself a victim of these killers? And you'd kind of be right. But remember who we're talking about here. It wouldn't surprise me if Lime actually sliced off his own lower jaw just to throw us off his scent. So, it looks like Lime is our main suspect in this creepy conspiracy with Wenda. What do you think about this theory? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video.